course, staying with your number one independent radio station, Ray Power 100.5 FM Abuja. Hello and welcome to the news desk. I am Chukwudi Amy. First, the headlines. U.S. Embassy Abuja announces temporary suspension of visa appointment services in Nigeria's capital, Abuja. Nigerian government sets up committee to review the $200 billion integrated gas, power and high-speed rail project. Low turnout as Djibouti votes in election set to extend Gulay's long rule. And the EU's new digital border system, which requires fingerprints, photos and passport scan to be fully operational starting today. Details of this and more coming up shortly.
As the news drops, it breaks with us. Join us for news on the hour every hour. News desk at 12 noon, Metro News at 4 p.m. Enjoy infotainment, breaking and sports news at their best 24/7.
This is Ray Power FM News.
And now the news in detail. The United States Department of State has authorized the departure of non-emergency personnel and their families from the U.S. Embassy in Abuja, citing the deteriorating security situation in Nigeria. In its last and latest updated travel advisory on Nigeria, released on the 8th of April 2026, the Department of State cited ongoing concerns over crime, terrorism, civil unrest, kidnapping, and limited healthcare services across parts of the country. We'll bring you more details on that in the subsequent bulletin. And also, the U.S. Embassy Abuja has announced a temporary suspension of visa appointment services in Nigeria's capital, Abuja. In a notice to applicants, the embassy advised individuals will schedule interviews to check their email addresses for updates and details regarding the rescheduling of their appointments. Despite the disruption in Abuja, visa operations remain fully functional at the U.S. Consulate General in Lagos. Officials also confirmed that American citizen services will continue to be available, particularly for emergencies, while routine services will be handled strictly by prior appointment. The embassy did not immediately provide reasons for the temporary closure, but assured the public that efforts are underway to minimize inconvenience to applicants. Wednesday's night attack on troops in Benishik, Borno State, which left over a dozen personnel killed, has raised fresh concerns about the state of security in Nigeria, particularly in the northeast. President Bola Ahmed Tinubu is still on the offensive and will President Bola Ahmed Tinubu insists the country's military is still on the offensive and will ensure all insurgent elements are crushed.
Nigeria is facing renewed security threats by insurgent groups who are targeting not just civilian targets, but military personnel. On Wednesday night, several soldiers and a brigadier general were attacked and killed when insurgents stormed a military base in Benishek, Kaga local government area of Borno State, raising fresh concerns about the surge in security attacks. Attacks by both ISWAP and Boko Haram have intensified since the start of 2026, and this comes amid claims by the military that it is containing the crisis. On Thursday, President Bola Tinubu acknowledged the death, expressing deep sorrow over the killing of soldiers from the 29th Task Force Brigade, Operation Hadinkai. According to a statement issued by the Special Advisor to the President on Information and Strategy, Bayo Onanuga, the President described the fallen troop as unfallen heroes who paid the ultimate price in the defense of the nation. While commiserating with the families of the deceased soldiers and the Nigerian military, the President praised the courage and resilience of the troops, noting that they fought gallantly to repel the attackers and prevent them from overrunning nearby communities. Amid criticisms that the war on terror is failing and reports of soldiers not being well equipped and motivated, the president insisted that Nigerian forces have sustained intense land and air offensives, neutralizing several fighters and commanders, describing the recent attack as a sign of desperation by insurgent groups. He also assured the federal government's contained support in providing necessary equipment and ensuring their welfare. In all of this, civilian targets are even more worrisome. In March, over 400 women and children were abducted by a faction of Boko Haram following a deadly attack in Gwanshe, Gwoza local government area of Borno State. They have yet to be released. A video seen online shows the women surrounded by armed Islamists, militants, pleading for the Nigerian government to intervene and accede to the demands of their abductors. Chidera Izde.
We told you earlier that the United States Department of State has authorized the departure of non-emergency personnel and their families from the U.S. Embassy in Abuja, citing deteriorating security situation in Nigeria. Now, we bring you reports on that story.
The advisory highlights that violent crimes such as armed robbery, carjacking, and kidnapping for ransom remain widespread, with foreign nationals, particularly Americans, often targeted. Several states have been placed under the highest warning level, do not travel. These include Borno, Yobe, and Northern Adamawa due to terrorism threats, as well as Kaduna, Kano, Katsina, Sokoto, and Zamfara states, over concerns of unrest, banditry, and kidnapping. In the southern region, states such as Abia, Anambra, Imo, and Rivers, excluding Port Harcourt, were also flagged due to rising insecurity and criminal activity. The department further warned of possible terrorist attacks in public places, including markets, shopping malls, schools, places of worship, and transportation hubs. It also raised concerns about Nigeria's healthcare system, noting limited access to quality medical care, shortages of essential drugs, and unreliable emergency services. Despite these concerns, travelers who must visit Nigeria are advised to remain vigilant, avoid large gatherings, and enroll in the Smart Travel Enrollment Program, known as STEP, for real-time updates and emergency assistance. Sadiat.
All right, now moving on to other reports, to the PDP, where the ADC factional national chairman, Nafiu Bala, has asked INEC to put his name on its portal as the legitimate leader of the party. Nafiu stormed the headquarters of the Electoral Commission along with a House of Rep member, Leke Abejide, and his supporters, reading a prepared speech containing his demands. He also alleged that the signature was forged to transfer control of the party and its organ to another group, and asked the authorities to investigate the matter. Meanwhile, the Nigerian government has set up a committee to review the $200 billion integrated gas, power, and high-speed rail project. The project aims to boost energy supply, industrialize the gas sector, and improve transport connectivity. Secretary to the Government of the Federation, George Akume, says the project is too important to be rushed and must be thoroughly vetted to safeguard national interest. The project involves developing gas reserves, power generation, and construction of 4,000 kilometers high-speed rail network linking major cities. A multi-agency technical committee will assess the project's financing and participating entities' credibility. You're still listening to the news desk on Reaper 100.5 FM. In the highlights of the news, U.S. Embassy Abuja announces temporary suspension of visa appointment services in Nigeria's capital, Abuja. The Nigerian government sets up committee to review the $200 billion integrated gas, power, and high-speed rail project. And coming right shortly, low turnout at Djibouti votes in election set to extend Gulei's long rule. And the EU's new digital border system, which requires fingerprints, photos, and passport scan to be fully operational today. Plus business, entertainment, sports, and weather. And moving on to the stories from the African scene, low turnout marks the start of voting in Djibouti's presidential election, with only a trickle of people showing up at polling station in the early hours in the capital. Despite more than 256,000 citizens being eligible to vote, participation remains sluggish through the morning, with expectations that crowds might later build up in the day. The vote is widely expected to hand President Ismail Omar Guelleh a sixth term, extending nearly 3 decades in power in this strategically located country. His presence dominates the race, from capital visibility to nationwide rallies, drawing large crowds. And now the EU's new digital border system, which requires fingerprints and photos alongside a passport scan, is set to fully become operational starting today. This was the deadline for the Entry-Exit System, or EES, to be active at every Schengen border crossing point in all 29 participating countries. The system began being gradually introduced from October to strengthen security and ultimately make travel smoother, though due to some hiccups, not every point will be fully rolling it out.
And now, a business update from Ray Power 100 FM.
Businesses across Nigeria identified inadequate electricity supply and insecurity as their most pressing operational challenges in March 2026, despite maintaining a broadly positive outlook on the economy, according to the latest business expectation survey released by the Central Bank of Nigeria on Thursday. The survey, conducted between March 9th and 13, 2026, covered 1,900 firms across industry, services, and agriculture, with a response of 99.7%. Despite these constraints, businesses remained optimistic about the macroeconomic environment. And still on Business Report, Nigeria's poverty rate rose to 63% in 2025, even as inflation eased sharply, highlighting weak transmission of macroeconomic gains to households, according to the World Bank. The report showed poverty rising from 56% in 2023 to 61% in 2024, before reaching 63% in 2025, equivalent to about 140 million Nigerians living below the poverty line.
This is entertainment news on Ray Power 100.5 FM.
A cancer survivor, Mbara Debola, has filed a petition claiming Black CEO used her medical records to siphon over 300 million naira from donors. The petition alleged that the influencer deliberately altered Deborah's diagnosis from its original state to stage 4 cancer. The victim's family accused the content creator of using her platform to bully them after they attempted to expose the discrepancies. And still on entertainment reports, Afrobeat sensation Oyinkan Shola Aderibigbe, better known as Ira Star, has spoken openly about her spiritual journey and relationship with God. During a recent live stream with TikTok star Jarvis, the singer revealed that her faith goes beyond church attendance and is centered on living a life that reflects Christ-like values, even though she admits she is still working towards that goal.
Ray Power Sport.
And Liverpool FC manager Arne Slot has insisted he retains the full backing of the club's owner, despite a sharp dip in form that has increased scrutiny in his leadership. Liverpool's recent struggle have raised concerns among supporters and pundits alike, with heavy defeats and inconsistent performance threatening their ambition in both domestic and European competitions. The pressure intensified following a damaging FA Cup exit to Manchester City and a defeat by Champions League holder Paris Saint-Germain.
Ray Power weather.
Now, sunny skies with patches of cloud will dominate the northern region. The central region will experience cloudy atmosphere with intervals of sunshine. However, isolated thunderstorms with light to moderate rains are expected over parts of Kogi, Nasarawa, Benue, Niger, and the Federal Capital Territory later in the day. Meanwhile, a cloudy atmosphere with intervals of sunshine will be expected across the southern region, accompanied by light rains in the same areas. And you'll be listening to the news desk on Ray Power 100.5 FM. FM Abuja. To end the news, here is our last line. In the words of Sean Patrick, American actor and author, do something today that your future will thank you for. And that's the news desk, produced by Kedonojo Okoliko. I am Chukudima Enyi. News on the hour comes up at 1 p.m. You can always listen to Ray Power online using Radio Garden, online radio box, tunein.com, or even on our social media handle, YouTube, Instagram, and Facebook at Ray Power Abuja. Good afternoon, Abuja.